The stars outside the wide window of the diplomatic ship Unity's Edge looked like silver dust floating in endless space. It was quiet inside the ship, but tension filled the air like a silent storm. Today was important, a moment in history. For the first time, the humans were meeting with the Valari Empire, a mysterious alien race who had refused contact for more than 200 years. Elias Trent stood in the main hall of the Unity's Edge, wearing his official uniform. He was not a soldier. He was a language expert, young, clever, and sometimes a bit awkward. But he was good at what he did. That's why he was here, chosen to be part of the first meeting between humans and Valari. His job was simple: understand, translate, and avoid making mistakes. He rubbed his hands together and took a deep breath. The doors opened slowly with a soft hiss. The Valari delegation stepped in. They were tall and elegant. Their skin had a pale silver shine, almost like marble, and their eyes were bright with colors that shifted like light through a crystal. There were 6 of them, all dressed in flowing robes with glowing patterns. They walked quietly, almost like they were floating, but one among them stood out. She walked at the front, tall and calm. Her robe was darker than the others, and her movements were sharp like a blade made of light. Her eyes, those eyes, were a deep violet, with small sparkles that moved inside them like tiny stars. Her name was Commander Sirai Valith, the lead diplomat of the Valari. Elias couldn't look away. As the leaders of both sides gave short greetings, Elias focused on his role. He listened to the Valari speak in their musical, complex language. He translated with care. But every time Sirai spoke, he found himself watching her face, trying not to get lost in those violet eyes. The meeting went well. It was mostly formal, no politics yet, just polite words, greetings, and a little sharing of culture. Sirai explained a few things about Valari customs. She was always calm, always serious. Not once did her expression change. After the meeting, Elias was asked to stay and assist with some cultural exchange in the side room. It was quiet. A few Valari were studying human items, books, images, simple tools. Sirai was there too, standing alone near a large screen that showed Earth's forests and oceans. Elias hesitated, then walked toward her. His heart was beating faster than usual. He didn't know why. She was so different from anyone he had ever met, but something about her made him feel curious, maybe even nervous. She turned to face him, those violet eyes calm but alert. "You are Elias Trent," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Language expert, 3rd rank." Elias nodded. "That's me. And you're Commander Valith?" "Correct," she said. "You are very young." He smiled awkwardly. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She tilted her head slightly as if thinking. "Your language is warm, filled with personal terms. Emotion is common in your speech." Elias chuckled. "That's humanity, I guess. We tend to wear our feelings out loud." Siri looked at him for a moment. "Strange, but interesting." Elias looked at her eyes again. They caught the light in such a way that they seemed to glow from the inside. He said, the words before he could stop himself. "Your eyes are beautiful." There was a silence. Sirai didn't speak. She blinked once, then turned her face slightly to the side. Her silver cheeks slowly began to show a soft pink glow. It was subtle at first, but grew warmer, like a soft light behind a curtain. Elias stepped back. "Oh, I didn't mean to offend you. I was just—" "You did not offend me," Sirai said quickly, but her voice was quieter than before. The glow on her face remained. Elias had never seen a Valari blush before. Honestly, he didn't even know they could blush. "Did I make you uncomfortable?" he asked gently. "No," she said, "only surprised." Her eyes met his again, and something had changed. They weren't just curious anymore. There was something else. A question, perhaps. Or a feeling she didn't fully understand. Sirai turned away slightly. "Valari do not receive personal comments often. It is not part of our social rules." Elias nodded. Well, humans are kind of the opposite. We say too much sometimes. She looked back at him. It was a simple comment, but it was warm. Warm is good, right? She didn't answer, but the pink glow on her cheeks deepened slightly. At that moment, one of the human diplomats called Elias over to assist with a translation. He gave Sirey a short nod. "I'll see you around, Commander." She gave a small nod in return. "Until then, Elias Trent." As he walked away, a Valari aide approached Sirey and quietly whispered something. Sirey responded calmly, but her eyes drifted back to the place where Elias had stood. For the rest of the evening, neither of them spoke of the moment. But others noticed. One of the human officers whispered to another, "Did you see that?" The alien diplomat actually blushed. And from the Valari side, quiet conversations began as well. No one understood yet what it meant, but something had happened, something small and very human. For the next few days, the halls of Unity's Edge buzzed with quiet whispers. The official meeting between the human and Valari diplomats had gone smoothly, but it wasn't the trade agreements or cultural discussions that people talked about. It was the moment when a human told a Valari woman that her eyes were beautiful, and she blushed. That single moment, short, unexpected, and gentle, had become the most talked about event aboard the ship. Some of the human officers laughed about it. "Elias has a way with words," one said with a grin. "Didn't know. It worked on aliens too." Others, especially the more serious diplomats, were not so amused. "Words like that can break protocols," said Director Malkin, the human lead of the summit. "This is diplomacy, not a romance novel." But Elias hadn't meant to cause trouble. He sat in his quiet quarters, staring at the stars outside his window. His thoughts kept going back to Sirey Valith. He hadn't meant anything too personal. The words just slipped out. Her eyes really were beautiful, and that glow on her face, so soft, so real, it had stayed in his mind. There was a soft chime. A message appeared on the screen. "Request for cultural session. Valari delegation. Attendance required." Elias frowned. Another session? He had already helped with 3 of them this week. Still, he couldn't refuse. It was his job. The next day, Elias entered the observation room where the Valari waited. It was quiet, filled with soft light and images of Earth on large screens, mountains, trees, rain falling on city streets. Sirey was there again. She stood near a curved window, looking out at a distant nebula glowing red and blue. When she turned, her face was as calm as always, but her eyes lit up slightly when she saw Elias. "You returned," she said. "I was told to," he replied with a small smile. "Guess someone wants me around." "Perhaps," Sirey said softly. There were others in the room, Valari aides, human cultural officers, but it felt like they were far away. Elias walked over, stopping a respectful distance from Sirey. "I wanted to say sorry," he said quietly. "If I made things uncomfortable." Sirey looked at him closely. "Why do you think you should be sorry?" "I don't know. Your people seem strict. Maybe compliments are not allowed." Sirey paused. "Compliments are not forbidden, but we are trained to avoid emotional response. Feeling something is not weakness, but showing it openly is discouraged." "Sounds exhausting," Elias said without thinking. Sirey gave a soft exhale. "It is the Valari way. But your words were unexpected. I did not dislike them." Elias looked surprised. "You didn't?" She shook her head slightly. "No. They made me curious. About your species. About your way of seeing others." For a moment, the silence between them was gentle. Not empty, but full of questions. But outside the observation room, trouble was already forming. In the Valari command room, high-level officers discussed the recent events. "This human, Elias Trent, continues to engage with Commander Valith," said Elder Varan, an older Valari with pale blue eyes. "This is unwise. She is a figure of authority. Her behavior must remain controlled." She has not broken any law, another officer replied. Not yet, but emotions are rising, and humans are unpredictable. The Valari were a proud race. For generations they believed that emotion led to chaos. Only control, calm, and logic had kept their society from falling during the dark times of their past. Now one of their highest diplomats was beginning to act differently. They watched recordings of Sci-Fi speaking to Elias, the way her voice softened, the way her skin glowed faintly when he was near, the way she paused too long between words. She is learning too much, Elder Varan said, and feeling too much. At the same time, on the human side, Elias was called to meet with Director Malkin. The director sat behind a smooth glass desk, his expression serious. Elias, he began, you've done good work. Your translations are accurate. Your understanding of Valari culture has helped this mission move forward. Thank you, sir. But there's a problem. People are talking, and not just humans. Valari officers, too. They say your connection with Commander Valith is becoming personal. Elias frowned. I didn't mean for that to happen. We're just talking, learning from each other. I'm not saying you've broken any rule, Malkin said. But in diplomacy, perception matters as much as reality. We don't want to give the Valari the wrong idea, or think we're using emotions to influence them. Elias felt frustration rise in his chest. Is it so wrong that we're just understanding each other? Malkin leaned back. Just be careful, keep it professional. Elias left the room feeling confused. He hadn't broken any law, he hadn't lied or manipulated. All he had done was speak honestly, but maybe honesty was dangerous in a place like this. Later that evening, Elias and Sci-Fi met again, this time in a smaller study room filled with books and symbols from both cultures. She seemed more reserved. I heard you were warned, she said quietly. You too? Elias asked. She gave a short nod. They are concerned. They say I'm becoming soft, that I'm feeling too much. Elias sat down across from her. Is that such a bad thing? Sci-Fi didn't answer at first. Valari society was built on silence, on strength without expression. But I wonder now, if we lost something important. She looked at him directly. Your people speak of beauty, of dreams, of kindness, even in moments of danger. It is a different kind of strength. Elias gave a small smile. We're not perfect, but we try. Sometimes even small words can mean something big. Sci-Fi studied him. When you said my eyes were beautiful, did you mean it only as a translator? A polite gesture? Elias shook his head. No, I meant it as a person, just one person speaking to another. For a moment, the glow returned to Sci-Fi's cheeks, just a faint light, but this time she did not turn away. Then she said something unexpected. I brought you something. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small glass object. It was shaped like a teardrop, filled with soft, swirling color. A memory, crystal, she explained. Valari use them to store thoughts and impressions. This one holds my first moment seeing Earth. I want you to have it. Elias took the crystal carefully, holding it in his hand like it was something precious. Thank you, he whispered. They sat in silence for a few moments, two beings from two worlds, learning something new, not from books, but from each other. Neither of them knew what was coming next, but something was beginning, something real, something that could change everything. The next few days aboard Unity's Edge passed quietly, but not peacefully. Outside the large viewports, the stars still shone bright. But inside the ship, tension was growing like a slow fire. Whispers moved between the halls. Not just about Elias and Sci-Fi anymore, but something darker. Rumors of sabotage, secret messages, and a threat from within. Elias had no idea at first. He continued his cultural sessions, helping the Valari understand human behavior and learning more about their deep, quiet traditions. He and Sci-Fi met often now, not always alone, but always aware of each other's presence. Their conversations had grown more honest, more human. But something was changing in Sci-Fi. She still stood tall and proud, still spoke with the calm voice of a trained diplomat. But there was a softness now, a gentleness in her words. Sometimes, when no one else was looking, her eyes lingered on Elias just a second longer than they should have. And sometimes she smiled. It was rare for a Valari to smile. One evening, Elias walked into the small observatory, where they often met. He was holding a small human music device. "I brought something new," he said. "It's a song, human music. No words, just sound. Some people say it speaks to the soul." Sci-Fi raised an eyebrow slightly. "We do not use music in our culture. Too emotional, too unpredictable." "Exactly," Elias said with a grin. He pressed a button, and soft piano notes filled the room. The melody was slow, quiet, but full of feeling, like a memory of something beautiful and lost. Sci-Fi stood still for a moment, listening. Her eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, they shimmered just a little more than usual. "It feels like," she whispered, searching for the right word. "Longing." Elias nodded. "That's what music does. It helps you feel things you don't know how to say." Sci-Fi said nothing for a long time. Then quietly she said, "I'm afraid." Elias looked at her with concern. "Afraid of what?" "Of what I am becoming. Of what my people might do if they see me as weak." "You're not weak," Elias said firmly. "You're strong in a new way, a better way." Before Sci-Fi could answer, a loud alarm broke through the silence. Red lights flashed along the walls. A voice echoed through the ship. "Emergency protocol active. Security breach detected. All personnel to lockdown stations." Elias jumped to his feet. Sci-Fi's calm vanished, replaced by alert focus. "Stay close to me," she said quickly. "This is not a drill." Across the ship, chaos began to rise. Human and Valari officers rushed through the halls trying to guide people to safety. But confusion filled the air. The Hollow Pact, a rogue faction of exiled Valari and radical humans, had launched a surprise attack on the summit. Their goal was simple: destroy the fragile peace forming between the two species. Explosions rocked the lower decks. Doors sealed. Systems shut down. The Unity's Edge was under siege from within. Elias and Sci-Fi moved through the maintenance tunnels, guided by Ceri's knowledge of the ship's layout. "Why would they do this?" Elias asked as they ducked under a support beam. "The Hollow Pact believes both our races are weaker when united," she replied. "They want to control through fear and separation." They reached a small control station. Sci-Fi checked the system and frowned. "Security override is locked. We can't access the bridge, and main power is failing. We must protect the other delegates." Elias looked down the hallway. "There's a family shelter 2 levels down. I saw it during the tour. If people are hiding there, they'll be trapped." Sci-Fi made a decision instantly. "Then we go." The halls were darker now, lit only by red emergency lights. Smoke drifted through the air. They passed fallen panels, scattered equipment, and 2 injured guards. Elias knelt beside one. "He's alive, just unconscious." Sci-Fi gently lifted the man and carried him over her shoulder with surprising strength. Elias took the guard's access key and continued forward. Soon they reached the shelter, a small secure room where a few humans and Valari had gathered. Among them was a Valari child hiding under a table, her silver skin dull with fear. Sci-Fi stepped forward and knelt down beside the child. "You are safe now," she said softly, her voice almost like a melody. The child stared at her for a moment, then reached out and took Sci-Fi's hand. Elias felt something shift inside him. He had never seen Sci-Fi like this. Strong, yes, but also kind. Not just a commander or diplomat, but something deeply human. Suddenly a crash came from the hallway. A group of Hollow Pact attackers had found them. Blasters charged. People screamed. Elias stood in front of the others without thinking, even though he had no weapon. Sci-Fi stepped forward, pulling out a Valari energy staff from her back. It crackled with white light. "You will not harm them," she said. Her voice colder now, like steel wrapped in ice. The attackers laughed. A Valari commander protecting humans? You've fallen far, Siray. Perhaps, she said. Or perhaps I have risen. Then she moved. The fight was fast and fierce. Siray moved like lightning, spinning, striking, blocking blasts with her staff. She fought not like a diplomat, but like a warrior trained from birth. Her robe burned at the edges. Her skin glowed with focused energy. Elias pulled the others back, guiding them behind a wall. He grabbed a small metal bar and used it to block the doorway. One of the attackers got past Siray and aimed his weapon at Elias. Without thinking, Elias stepped forward to shield the Valari child behind him. The blast never came. Siray struck the attacker down with a sharp blow, standing between Elias and danger. She looked at him, breathing hard. You would risk your life for a child not your own? So would you, Elias said. The attackers were defeated. The room was safe. For now. After backup arrived and the ship was secured, Elias sat on the floor, holding the Valari child who had finally fallen asleep in his arms. Siray stood nearby, her robe torn and burned, her staff still glowing faintly. Today, she said, I broke the rules of my people. I showed emotion. I fought with anger. I protected with feeling. Elias looked up at her. And because of that, people are alive. She sat beside him, for the first time, not as a commander, but just as herself. They will question me, she said. They may punish me. I'll speak for you, Elias said. I'll tell them what you did, what you felt. Siray smiled, just slightly. You are dangerous, Elias Trent. Why? Because you make people believe in things they're not supposed to. Elias looked into her violet eyes. And you're not the same as when we met. No, she said softly. And I do not wish to go back. Outside, the stars kept shining. Inside, something new was growing. Stronger than fear, louder than silence, and more powerful than any weapon. Hope. The stars outside Unity's edge were calm again, but inside the ship things were far from peaceful. The attack by the Hollow Pact had shaken both the human and Valari delegations. Repairs were still going on. Security teams were posted on every floor. Conversations were short, eyes were watchful, and trust was being tested. But even in this tense atmosphere, the name Commander Siray Valith was being spoken with new respect. She had fought to protect both humans and Valari. She had saved lives, including children. Her actions had not gone unnoticed. Still, not everyone was pleased. In a private chamber, aboard the ship, a group of Valari officials stood in silence. A large screen showed footage from the security cameras. Siray in battle, defending civilians, fighting with anger in her eyes and fire in her hands. She revealed too much, said Elder Varan, his face hard. She broke control. She exposed feelings. She used violence outside command protocol. She saved lives, another officer said quietly. She broke tradition. Varan snapped. What if others follow her? What if Valari youth think emotion is strength? No one replied. The screen paused on Siray holding a crying Valari child, her silver hand gently wiping away a tear. She must answer for this, Varan said. And that human, Elias Trent, he must be removed from further contact. Back in the medical ward, Elias was awake and sore. A bandage covered his left arm, burned when he tried to shield the child during the attack. Siray sat nearby, her robe replaced with a simpler uniform. She looked tired but calm. They want to separate us, she said softly. Elias looked at her. I guessed that already. They believe I am changed, that I've been influenced. You have, Elias said with a small smile. So have I. She tilted her head, confused. I mean, he explained, we both changed, but not in a bad way. We're just more complete now. Siray was quiet. Then, slowly, she reached into her sleeve and took out another crystal. This one's smaller, shaped like a thin leaf. This is for you, she said. It is a Valari truthstone. It is only given when someone has shown who they truly are in a moment of danger. Elias took it gently. The crystal was warm. I didn't do anything special. You did, Siraj said. You stood in front of fear. That is rare, even among Valari. There was a long silence between them, a comfortable one, but it was broken when a message came through Siraj's wrist device. Commander Valith, you are ordered to report to Valari Council aboard Unity's Edge. Immediate. The council chamber was wide, made of glowing stone, and filled with soft, echoing light. Siraj stood in the center. Elias watched from a glass balcony above, allowed in only because of his role as translator and observer. Elder Varan spoke first. Commander Siraj Valith, you stand before us not for failure, but for deviation. You have abandoned discipline. You have shown emotion in public. You have chosen human customs over Valari silence. Siraj stood straight, her face calm but firm. I made a choice, she said, to protect life, to act from the truth in my heart. You blushed, Varan said sharply. You smiled. You connected. These things are forbidden in formal duty. Are we machines? Siraj asked quietly. Or living beings? That question made the chamber fall silent. Then she added, for 200 years we feared emotion would destroy us. But it is fear that keeps us from growing. This human, Elias, showed me another way, a way with strength and heart. Some of the elders shifted uncomfortably. Varan looked angry. And you believe this change is good? I believe it is real, Siraj said. And if we do not allow truth to shape us, we become empty. Then she turned and looked up at Elias through the glass. Is that not what your people teach? That the heart is not weakness, but courage? Elias placed his hand on the glass silently. Varan spoke again. You will not be punished, but you are removed from official duties. You may remain on Unity's Edge for observation. Your future will be decided later. Siraj bowed, then left the chamber without another word. Later that evening, the ship was quieter. Siraj and Elias stood alone, in the observation deck, watching a nearby planet slowly rotate below. They've grounded you, Elias said. Siraj nodded. They don't trust what they saw in me. But do you trust it? Elias asked. She looked at him, her violet eyes soft. I do. He smiled. Then maybe this is just the start. Siraj moved closer. In Valari culture, when someone shows another the path of light, we say, you carried the flame across the dark. And what happens then? Elias asked. They walk together, so neither forgets the fire. For a moment they stood side by side, not just as diplomat and translator, but as two souls learning what it meant to connect. But peace does not last forever. A message came from Earth. New threats were rising. The Hollow Pact was not finished. And now, they were targeting planets, where humans and Valari were starting joint colonies. The Unity's Edge was assigned a new mission, to travel beyond the safe zones into a region of space where the Hollow Pact was rumored to have a base. Commander Siraj, though no longer part of the official council, was asked to join as an unofficial advisor. And Elias was going too. You're really coming with us? He asked her. I go where I am needed, she said. And right now that place is beside you. He smiled. You'll like the next planet. It has blue oceans and warm sunrises. She tilted her head. Do you always describe places with feeling? Only the beautiful ones. She didn't blush this time, but she did smile. As the Unity's Edge prepared to jump into deep space, a sense of hope filled the ship. A human and an alien had stood together, and the galaxy had changed, just a little. But sometimes, a little is enough, especially when it begins with something as simple as the truth in someone's eyes. The Unity's Edge moved silently through the black sea of stars, heading toward the distant system where the Hollow Pact had hidden their base. The crew was tense but determined. For humans and Valari alike, this mission was more than just a bite. It was a test of trust, courage, and hope. Elias Trent stood on the observation deck watching the stars stretch into streaks as the ship prepared for faster-than-light jump. Beside him was Commander Sci-Fi Valiath, her violet eyes calm but shining with quiet strength. "Are you ready?" Elias asked. Sci-Fi smiled softly. "I was born ready." Their journey into the unknown had changed both of them. Elias was no longer the nervous linguist who had blurted out a simple compliment. Sci-Fi was no longer the cold, distant diplomat. Together they carried something new, a connection between two worlds. As the Unity's Edge arrived near the Hollow Pact's secret base, the ship went dark to avoid detection. The crew prepared for a difficult landing on a rocky moon where the enemy was believed to be hiding. The tension was thick. Inside the command room, Sci-Fi and Elias sat side by side. She studied the star charts, her fingers tracing the path they would take. "This place," she said, "it is a shadow of what Valari once feared in themselves. Fear that controls, divides, destroys." Elias nodded. "But we're here to bring light." Sci-Fi glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the stars. Together. The landing was rough. The ship shook as it touched down on the moon's dusty surface. Outside, the sky was dark, lit only by the light of a distant sun and the flickering stars. Elias and Sci-Fi led a small team of human and Valari soldiers through narrow canyons and rocky hills. The air was thin, and every step felt heavier. They knew the Hollow Pact was waiting. They were ready. Suddenly, a group of attackers appeared, their weapons raised and ready to fire. "Hold!" Sci-Fi commanded, raising her staff. The battle began. Sci-Fi moved with grace and power, her energy staff glowing bright as she deflected blasts and struck down enemies. Elias stayed close, helping the wounded and calling out directions. But this time, the fight was different. They were not alone. Behind the attackers, more Valari soldiers appeared. These were loyal to the Peace Council, fighting against the Hollow Pact. The battle turned quickly. Elias watched as Sci-Fi stood tall in the middle of the fight, her eyes blazing like twin stars. Her presence inspired the soldiers on both sides to push forward. The Hollow Pact was driven back. After the fight, the team gathered in a small cave, their breaths heavy, but spirits high. Sci-Fi looked around at the soldiers, both human and Valari, and spoke quietly. "This victory is not just about defeating enemies. It is about choosing to stand together, to trust, to hope." Elias stepped forward, holding out the small Valari truth stone she had given him. It glowed softly in the dark. "To trust and hope," he said. "We need to see each other, not just as warriors or diplomats, but as friends." Sci-Fi smiled. "Your people say the eyes are the windows to the soul," she said. "Elias, you told me my eyes were beautiful. You saw something beyond the surface." He nodded. "And you showed me that even in darkness, light can grow." Days later, back on Unity's Edge, the news of the victory spread quickly. The joint forces of humans and Valari had stopped the Hollow Pact from destroying peace before it could begin. For many, it was a sign that the future held new possibilities. The Valari Council reconsidered their traditions. They began to allow more freedom for their people to show emotion, not as weakness but as strength. Sci-Fi was called back to the council, not as a prisoner, but as a leader. She stood before the gathered elders, her violet eyes shining with pride. "Return not as the same commander," she said, "but as one who has learned that the heart and mind must work together." The council members nodded, some smiling for the first time in a long while. Elias watched from the side, proud but humble. Later, as the summit ended and the delegations prepared to return to their homes, Elias found Sci-Fi once again by the observation window. The stars outside were bright and full of promise. He looked at her and smiled. "Still beautiful," he said softly. Sci-Fi blushed, not from surprise this time, but from the warmth that had grown between them. "Thank you," she replied, "for seeing me. And for showing me a new way to be strong," Elias said. Together they looked out at the stars, knowing that their friendship, and maybe something more, was a light that could change the galaxy. Because sometimes it all begins with something as simple as a kind word and eyes that believe in hope.